Good morning. Today I am going to discuss slide number AM3. The history given is 65 years male patient. This is a section from the kidney. This is the low power showing renal glomeruli tubules as well as with some congested and dilated blood vessels. Here on the high power we can see the renal tubule, glomeruli and congested dilated blood vessels. This is the oil immersion showing a congested blood vessel having an aggregation of RBCs. Here we can see a dense aggregation of RBC. The RBC morphology is different. It is sickle in shape in this picture. In this picture it is more clear of the sickled RBCs. We can see the sickled RBCs inside the vessel. The diagnosis is sickle cell disease kidney. Sickle cell disease is an inherited chronic hemolytic anemia whose clinical manifestations arise from the tendency of the hemoglobin to polymerize and deform red blood cells into the characteristic sickle shape in a state of reduced oxygen tension. Due to a single nucleotide change in the beta globin gene leading to substitution of valine for glutamic acid at position 6 of the beta globin chain. There are three types, that is the sickle cell anemia, sickle cell trait and sickle cell disease. Sickle cell anemia is a homozygous state, that is one gene is received each from both the parents. Clinically they manifest early and HbS is more than 70% in the red blood cells. Sickle cell trait is a heterozygous state. Here one gene is received from one parent for HbS while the other gene is for HbA. Amount of HbS is 25 to 40% and clinical picture here is mild and it may remain undetected. Sickle cell disease. At least one gene is of HbS which may be in combination with normal or any other abnormal genes like thalassemias, HBD, HBQ or any hemoglobinopathy. Here we can see a small diagrammatic picture showing the pathophysiology of what happens to a sickled RBC. The red one is the oxygenated RBC. Once it undergoes deoxygenation, there is a conformational change which exposes a hydrophobic patch at the beta 6 valine area, which is shown as a projection. When these bind to another hydrophobic site on another hemoglobin, it forms a polymer. When it forms a chain, HbS molecule is formed. So when all these when they aggregate, it forms a twisted rope-like structure forming a polymer. On the right side we can see the normal or oxygenated hemoglobin, the deoxygenated hemoglobin, and once the polymer is formed there will be sickling. What happens to these RBCs? They go through the microcirculation of the spleen and where there is decreased oxygen tension. Due to decreased oxygen there will be sickling. When the oxygen is again available, there will be desickling of these RBCs. When they pass through other microcirculation or areas where there is less oxygen, there will be repeated sickling, due to which there is membrane damage and increased permeability, due to which there is permanently sickled RBCs are formed. Firstly, the RBCs, as we all know, they have the membrane of the RBC has they can fold on themselves when they are passing through a small area. But here in sickle cell disease, what happens is there is increased hemoglobin S polymer. This will cause decreased deformability and increased blood viscosity, due to which there is increased blood viscosity. Once there is repeated sickling, there is membrane damage. Due to membrane damage, potassium ions and water move out and there is dehydration of the RBCs. The hemoglobin concentration in the cell is increased due to dehydration, which will result in faster sickling. Cell adhesion molecule 1, thrombospondin and fibronectin help in adhesion of RBCs to the vessel wall. The RBCs get trapped and there is also leukocytosis, increased platelets and increased inflammatory cytokines, which will in turn lead to vascular stasis and vasoocclusion. Now, the sickled RBCs, which are permanently sickled, they undergo complement mediated lysis, forming intravascular hemolysis. There is membrane damage, which will lead to entrapment in the vascular stasis, or there is phagocytosis by the macrophages, which will lead to extravascular hemolysis. All these events will lead to a chronic hemolytic anemia. Now coming to clinical features. Up to 3 months, because there is HbF which is protective, there won't be any symptoms. The growth and development of these children are delayed, and after 6 months the spleen enlarges, and during 5 to 6 years of the age, the gradual decrease in size of the spleen is there due to multiple infarcts caused by the splenic artery. There is vascular stasis in small vessels of the leg, which will lead to recurrent leg ulcers, and also avascular necrosis of femoral head due to vascular stasis. Dactylitis or hand-foot syndrome is developed due to avascular necrosis of phalanges, metacarpals and metatarsals, which will manifest as pain and also crippling will be seen. Due to hemolysis, there is anemia and jaundice. Also, due to hypofunction of spleen, there are recurrent infections like pneumonia, osteomyelitis. These are caused by salmonella and streptococci pneumonia and few other organisms. Also, there is stagnation of blood in corpora cavernosum, which will lead to priapism. There is acute chest syndrome, that is acute pain, fever, chest pain, leukocytosis, and also pulmonary infiltrates. Salmon patches in the retina is seen due to the internal retinal hemorrhages and proliferative changes like AV and anastomosis because of the occlusion caused in the retinal vessels. There are 4 types of crisis in sickling syndromes. Sickling crisis, that is also known as vasoocclusive crisis. This is acute, painful, recurrent crisis. This is precipitated by fever, infection and dehydration. There is blockage of microcirculation by sickled red cells, resulting in abdominal pain, bone pain, chest pain and stroke. Hemolytic crisis. When there is increase in the rate of hemolysis with the sudden lowering of hemoglobin, reticulocytosis, and there is increase in jaundice. In patients who have G6PD deficiency, it will lead to a hemolytic crisis as well. Aplastic crisis, that is sudden aplasia of erythroid precursors, occurs because of certain viral infections due to parvovirus B19. They usually recover in 5 to 10 days. The bone marrow shows giant proerythroblasts with intranuclear inclusion and basophilic cytoplasm with tongue-like protrusions. Sequestration crisis. This is seen in infants and young children with HbSC disease or sickle thalassemia. There is massive sequestration of sickled red cells in spleen or liver with rapid organ enlargement and reduced blood volume, also which will lead to hypovolemic shock and death. Coming to hematologic features, there is moderate anemia. The peripheral smear shows anisopoikilocytosis, sickle cells, target cells, polychromatophils and Howell-Jolly bodies in cases of autosplenectomy. There is reticulocytosis up to 3 to 10% is seen. The test which can be done for sickle cell to demonstrate sickle cell disease is sickling test using 2% sodium metabisulfate or sodium dithionate. Here, when the sickling test is done, the amount of HbS is directly proportional to the time taken for the sickling. And also the other 2 tests are HP electrophoresis and HPLC. In HPLC, there are 2 peaks are seen, which are of HbS and HbA in cases of heterozygous diseases. Coming to management, dietary supplements with folic acid, vitamin B12, etc. Nitric oxide, because it leads to vasodilation and vasoocclusive events can be prevented. Hydroxyurea, this is supposed to increase the HbF, um, and blood transfusion in cases of acute manifestations, acute or severe anemia. Now let us see what happens in the kidney. The hypoxic, acidotic and hypertonic renal medulla favors vaso-occlusion, which will lead to destruction of the vasa recta and hyposthenuria in the first year of life. This will present clinically as enuresis or nocturia, and patients are susceptible to dehydration in hot weathers. Hematuria is also noted due to papillary necrosis. Management is generally by bed rest and hydration, although sometimes blood transfusion and aminocaproic acid are required. Thank you.